Welcome back to another episode of Ball Knowledge Podcast. I know it has been a solid minute since the last episode, but I'm so excited to get this series back up and running for you guys. Today, we have a special episode for you guys. We have former Rams and Lions defensive tackle Michael Brockers joining, and we talk about whether or not kids should even play football nowadays and his career and what the state of the league looks like and what his plans for the future are. So I'm so excited that we could have Michael Brockers join us. Please remember to like and subscribe. And without further ado. All right, now joining us from Houston is Michael Brockers. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Man, all good, all good. Thanks for having me on, boss.
Man, I'm so excited. I mean, I remember watching the Super Bowl back in 2018. I remember watching those Rams. Phenomenal. I remember you very, very well. Like I was so excited to have the opportunity to talk to you and just like get to hear your story and how things shaped up for you to get you to where you are today and how your career panned out. And so I guess we could just like jump right in. Like, what got you into football originally?
I was always in love with the sport, just from an early age, going outside, playing with the neighborhood, and just throwing the ball up, playing tackle football in the grass. And I was always attracted to the sport. Um, you know, and I think my mom keeping me from the sport, like I didn't play a lot of youth football. So, I'm the oldest of five. So I had a lot of what we call big brother duties, taking over, the house and, doing what I have to do for my mom. So I think keeping, holding the reins back on me for a long time until about ninth grade, holding the reins on me like, really grew my love for the sport. And then when I was able to play, I was like, I'm giving this my all. Like I love this sport. I love hitting people. I love putting on my pads. I love putting my helmet. Like this is the sport I was made to play. And, when God gives you ability, I was 6'3", 6'4" in high school, 230, 240. So I was already a bigger guy. So it was just like, this was a sport that was made for me. I could have played basketball. I mean, I did play some basketball in high school, but I just knew my ticket out was playing football. So, I just was when I put my mind to something, I feel like I can do it, and I just was like, this is what I'm doing. I'm making it a reality because I remember my grandmother telling me like early on, maybe I was probably like 11, 12. I was telling her, yeah, I'm gonna play in the NFL. I'm gonna buy you a house. Like I would speak it into fruition. Like
Existence.
I'm gonna yeah, speaking into existence. And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna buy you a house. Yeah, I'm playing NFL. And looking at it now as a parent, I'm like, yeah, right. My son tells me that now, and I'm like, okay, let's see about this. Like, do you really have the work ethic to play in the NFL? Do you really have that drive? So I can see why she felt the way she felt. She didn't like shun me for it. She was just like, oh, okay, But I made it happen. I went to LSU out of high school, was drafted out of LSU in the first round, to the Rams. So I just made my dreams a reality.
Well, I know like a lot of kids nowadays, like, I was one of those, my mom would not let me play football.
Hmm.
And I got finally convinced after years and years in eighth grade, and that's when my love for the game truly exploded.
Hmm.
Obviously, I had multiple concussions, so my parents pulled me out. That was absolutely devastating. But that's
Hmm.
led me here now where I have the opportunity to interview you, and that's what I
Hmm.
want to do is eventually work in the league. And
Hmm.
so I understand like from a parent's perspective how hard it is to see this beautiful, beautiful game and still be like, how can we best protect our kids? So, for example, you talking about you have a son now. How do you like what goes on through your head, knowing obviously you were very cerebral with the game, you know it better than most. What
Hmm.
would you like? Do you want him to play football? Is that something like that's discussed?
Um, to me, everything is not in my hands. You know, we have a creator, we have God, you know, he has control of everything. So
Mhm.
it's not that I don't want him to play. I think I'm doing the same thing my mom did for me, just in a different circumstances. Like I'm holding the reins on him just so his body can develop, you know, so he can build a work ethic, so he can truly know like, okay, this is the choice that I'm making, you know. Or at an early age, you do it for fun, you do it for, you know, maybe your friends are playing and things like that. So you kind of you're playing for different reasons. When you get I mean, especially when you get to college and you start really understanding like, oh, and now that they're making money too, you know, you start understanding like, man, okay, this is serious. This is like a job. This isn't just, you know, something I'm doing because I love to do it. Like I have to want it to play with these guys. So for me, it's about building that mentality up inside of him first before I truly allow him to like play the game. So I think that's going to take a couple of years. Now, I'm not saying he won't be able to play flag. Like I was his flag coach last year. So I think there's possibilities where he can play a version of football, but I don't think the pads and, you know, putting him in little league and, you know, doing that whole thing right now, it's important because he has to really truly understand like you have to have work ethic. You have to really want to play this game, you know, if you want to be successful. So I think that's kind of where my mind is right now. I'm not saying no. I'm just saying no.
So when you talk about that mentality, I think a lot of things. I mean, I, for example, refed flag football this past fall.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things. The mentality is you hear all these parents chirping on the sideline, stuff like that, and these
Mm-hmm.
kids are just seemingly just falling out of love with the sport. How do we,
Mm-hmm.
like, as a community, continue to like build up these kids so where they can have this mentality of, oh, I can go get this, or I have control over my fate, and I can, you know, guide myself in the direction I need to go to play in high school, college, pros, etc.
I think parents have to realize like your kid isn't going to the NFL now. Like, let's let them allow them to have fun first. Let them fall in love with the game, fall in love with teamwork, fall in love with you know, going through adversity. Like they have to feel that first, you know, before you're pressuring them to go to the NFL because what I do know is like there are tons of guys that probably have the opportunity to play this game, but like different circumstances is the reason why they can't. Either like you said, they fell out of love, or they got injured, or concussions, like or neck injury. Like there's a lot of things that can keep you from or keep you from fulfilling your destiny if this is, you know, playing in the NFL is your dream. So for me, it's about really taking a step back, you know, and truly understanding like, do you really love this game? I think that's where it really has to come down to is like, do you really love the game of football like you say you do? And I had to come to that realization in college where I was like waking up at 5 o'clock, you know, doing drills, then going to class, then going to going to rehab or going to study hall. You have to really love the game if you're playing SEC football. I'm gonna be honest with you because obviously school is important, but football is just as
Football.
important, you know.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I was just with my in Cincinnati for Thanksgiving, and a
Mhm.
kid that used to go to my high school is now playing offensive line on the Bearcats, and he was talking
Mhm.
about his crazy schedule, and I'm like, there's there's no way. How do you balance all this? And it's just
Mhm.
the people like you have to treat it like a job, as you said, especially
Mhm.
now with like NIL and stuff like that. It really is college football in particular is so much more of takes up just that much more of your time. You just have to want it that much more. But like
Mhm.
transitioning back to you, I mean, you talked about how your parents put you in, or you finally were allowed to play in high school. So
Mhm.
at what point, I mean, obviously blessed with great genetics, but
Right.
at what point, like, were you just like, I got this, I can go play? Was there any particular play? Is there any particular moment where you just like clicked, or is it just like a slow process over time?
It's funny. So, I played at, it's crazy. So in Houston, I went to a school, inner city Houston school called Milby and Chavez. So the they're only like a mile and a half away from each other, or 2 miles
Huh.
maybe max away from each other. So I went to Milby my ninth grade year, which was like my introduction to organized football, So I started, doing voluntary summer workouts. They were miserable. Like at one point, I thought I was just like big for nothing. Like I couldn't really lift weights at all. Um, they stayed after me. Obviously, I was a genetic freak, so they were like, "No, you got to do something." So it's not like I quit. It just was like I didn't know I could do. I didn't know this was football entails. You when you
Yeah.
love the game and you don't know the true all the hard work behind it, you just see the game. You're like, man, I just want to go play in the game. Like that's it. And then you start learning like what you have to sacrifice to really be good or really be really take the game seriously. So that was like eye opening for me. So I transferred from Milby and I went to Chavez. And with doing that, I had to sit out a year. I couldn't. I was playing varsity as a freshman from Milby. Went to Chavez. I had to sit out a year, so I couldn't play varsity. I was playing JV, and I feel like that was the greatest thing that happened to me because um, for me, it was like a step down. I was like, I'm really playing with these cats on Thursday. Like I was playing on Fridays, like at my last school. Now I'm playing on Thursday. It gave me the confidence that like I can really do whatever I want if I want to. I work hard. I'm always, in the weight room. It was just about really having the confidence to really get it done. And that my sophomore year playing on JV, I was just like, I was almost pissed off like I had to play with these kids. I was like, so I was ruining games. Like I was just cracking through the line, tackling the quarterback, the running back. Like I played mad and they were like, is he supposed to be on JV? Like
Yeah,
he's
I
a
could
big
not
kid.
I could not imagine being a sophomore going in like failing a geometry test and then having to play against you. That sounds
Right.
brutal.
Yeah, no, on Thursday. On Thursday.
Yeah.
So you like and you looking at this kid like, bro, he's supposed to be playing varsity. Like he's not supposed to be playing. But like I line up against you and I'm just like pissed off because I gotta play you. So no, I think at that point, like my confidence grew and that's where I knew like, okay, I can really play in this game. I can really, if I do the right things, I can play this game of football. So that led into my junior year going to varsity when I was just like felt like I was just let out, like the dogs, at a dog race where they let out the cage and they just sprinting 100 miles an hour. That's how I felt my first year playing varsity. And I just was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. So I'm going against the guys I feel like I should go against. And I'm dominating these guys. So I think that junior year, me gaining confidence in myself really helped me moving forward and knowing like what it takes to really play this game.
Quick side note. I know like you grew up in Houston and that I mean
Mm,
Texas football, everyone knows that. So
yes.
just quick question, like who was like the hardest player you had to go against in high school?
I don't really recall any offensive linemen, but I did have to play um Andrew Luck twice going in Texas, in high school or in the playoffs. So we were always like the fourth team, in our division, and we got to play in the playoffs, and we
Did
had
you
to
bring
go
him
against
down?
Andrew. Not one time. I did not bring him down. I didn't hit Andrew Luck till I got into the NFL. And I might have bruised him one time. But, he when he was playing in high school, he was like a god QB, that everybody wanted. He had the fundamentals and he could run, So
Yeah.
Andrew Luck, I would say by far was like the top prospect I played against. And I played against guys of just great athletes. So for me, I think he was the one, like, the biggest athlete I played against, and he beat me going into the playoffs. So for me, I'm like, yeah, that's one of the best guys I played against in my career. And I'm still,
Damn. No, I wouldn't. I mean, I don't know how. Yeah, that's just a great matchup. Also, you versus Andrew. I mean, he gets that ball out. He is so cerebral. One of the best.
mm,
I players with IQ in the league. So that was that definitely had to be difficult. But so going towards like junior, senior year, when did like your recruitment start? How did that process shape? And how is this like different today versus when you were being recruited?
Obviously, NIL, probably I would have, it's hard to say no to somebody who's pretty much changing your life, especially if you come from, the background I come from where single mother, have, five kids,
Mhm.
So for me, I just truly, the tradition was, it meant a lot more when I was coming up, playing for Alabama, playing for LSU, playing for these different teams, you felt like it held weight the team that you played for. It wasn't about who had the biggest check. It was about truly, I see myself in purple and gold, or I see myself in maroon and white, or burnt orange
Yeah.
and white, whatever it is. But felt for me like LSU, it was 4 hours away from home, just the same amount as Dallas. So it was like that's similar. It doesn't take long to get from Houston to Baton Rouge. Um, playing in the SEC, um, guys getting drafted very high. D linemen getting drafted very high, coming from out of LSU. They played a big part in me choosing LSU as well. So for me, it was like the perfect storm,
Yeah.
and the recruitment process, a lot of guys. The guys before me, a couple of juniors and seniors before me, were getting highly recruited, and I was playing JV, and you see the scouts come to see them, then they come, accidentally see me, like who is this guy? Is he ready? Is he not? And then my coach was like, "Man, he's just a freshman, or he's just a sophomore. He's not ready yet." And when I became a junior and I, made a name for myself, in the city of Houston, and the letters and things just kept coming. Every day my coach would give me letters from different colleges, them asking me to, watch the game, come out to the game. I remember one time because you get so many, or you got so many letters back then that just was said, just like little minute, hey, make sure you watch the game. Da, 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 da. So it was one game. It was a letter from, I think it was either Texas A&M or Oklahoma. I forgot, but it was like we're verbally, giving you a scholarship or something like that. And I was like, I did not like I didn't really mean to open it, but it was pretty much an offer in a letter, and I wasn't opening. Like I had like a little drawer in my closet that I just felt filled up with all the letters because I felt like a lot of them was like just like BS
Bogus.
letters,
Yeah.
Um, so when I opened this one, I was like, oh, how many offers did I throw away, or how many offers haven't I checked? So I just went in and started opening like all the letters and things like that. But no, that it was a lot different, when I was coming up, in college and things of that nature. Now it's all about, man, who has the biggest check, who's the head coach that's going to stay around the longest. You kind of got to think about the things when you're planning to play in college now.
I mean, the state of college is just so mind-boggling. Like, what is your take on NIL?
I think it's important, for the players to make some money because when I was playing, I mean, it showed you grit, it gave you grit, but it was a struggle. Like I was still struggling in college, trying to find, the meal plan, things of that nature. Um, Having things for school. Obviously, you don't have to pay for school, so that's a
Yeah.
big, one up. It's like I don't have to pay for school, but also you have to manage the money that you do get wisely. So a lot of guys, you're young, you get $300 and you feel like that's $3,000. So you're going out here, going out there. So
That's
now
not, if I
thinking
got three
about
hundred
like
dollars right now, I'd be ecstatic.
right, so. and then now guys are making like $300,000.
Yeah.
Like, what? Are you kidding me? So, no, I definitely respect how I was, raised and, not raised, but how I was brought up throughout college without NIL because it gave me some sense of like responsibility. It gave me some sense of like, you got to get it out the mud first. Like, this isn't just a stop. Like, this school isn't just one of the schools that you're going to go to. It's like the school you're going to, so definitely gave me like a little bit more respect for like picking and knowing like what you want. Like, now guys, I don't think they know what they want. I think they just go with whatever, with whatever, is the highest check or whatever's trending. Back when I was growing up, like, you kind of had to know what you wanted from a football perspective.
Yeah, especially now, like, and I like just from the outside looking in, like, I understand completely the idea of NIL. Like, you should be paid for like that. Like, if they're selling jerseys with your name on it, at least from my perspective, it makes sense that you get a cut of that. Like, that's your name. Do I believe that there are some like people that are just going straight for the money and that's it? And I don't understand the idea of staying for a year, then going somewhere else. The whole thing with like Nico Yamaleva this past offseason just completely confused me. And I didn't I thought that was maybe a step too far that maybe college football might need to like take a look at, you know? The other thing like that's really interesting that I've been thinking about this past couple weeks is how coaches also uses the coaching portal itself and how much influence that has. Like for example, and I'm a Michigan fan, and with the Sharon Moore news, obviously, I was Rich Eisen put it best. I was every single negative emotion you could think because I mean, I was sitting there like, man, I've watched this guy like grow from like 2018 on when he just joined as like a tight ends coach, and I've heard stories
Mm-hmm.
about all the great things he has done for like recruits for the Michigan program. Just to hear like that all come crashing down was hard. But like the coaching cycle in general, because the next thing they were talking about was all these coaches have moved like to different schools already.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking how much of that has an influence on where players stay? Because you hear, for example, from Marshall last year when the coach transferred out and every single player left. And so, how much do you think like this idea of just the carousel just growing for like the coaching cycle? Just how is that like playing a role in college football?
I think that was another issue on why they had to like open it up to a Wild Wild West, kind of deal because you had coaches that were able to just leave and take a better deal somewhere else, and then you got guys in college who, maybe you did go to that school because of that coach and he recruited you and he's now got a better opportunity. Now he gets to leave and now you're kind of stuck in a situation where you feel you're in a limbo kind of state. So, yeah, if coaches, had to play out their tenure at the program, it would, be, it would give a little bit more foundation to programs, if they didn't have this sense of like everybody has a win now philosophy where it's like you can't build a program like that. Like Joe Paterno, like they coached at their programs for, you know, I wanted to say
Years.
centuries, but
Yeah, I was thinking
a long
decades.
time. Definitely decades. They coached at those programs for decades. They built the foundation. They consistently get the recruits that they want to get, So it's not this whole thing going like now you're in the portal, now you're trying to, build a team and throughout the portal and this and that. So if the coaches would show some more stability in their self and not moving team from team each, couple of years, I think you would see more stability from the players. But since you don't, the players are just matching the coach's energy. If you can leave after a year to a better opportunity, I'm gonna do the same.
Yeah, no, I understand. But like, okay, so transitioning back to like your LSU days. I mean, you coming in as you said this program, it was like a perfect storm. They had come off from a national championship a year removed from that. You got Les Miles, a coach, and you come in like you had OBJ, Tyrann Mathieu, Jarvis Landry. I mean, you got stars galore piling up at LSU. As you said, everybody went to LSU to get drafted. What was
Hmm.
that like? Just coming into this super successful program, and like, how was that like changed from where you were like the biggest star at your high school to all of a sudden like now you are just another player at
Right.
LSU?
Um, it was crazy because it was eye opening. Playing inner city ball, it's kind of playing for fun. You play with your guys, and the uh, I knew like the position it held, like as far as going to college, going to LSU. Like I knew LSU was a big college, but I think I was like somewhat underestimating like the magnitude of playing at LSU, and I still look at it like I took it a little for granted playing for LSU as far as like not truly understanding like the passion that the fans have, not truly understanding um like the severity of like if you lose this game or that game, like, it can cost you your season. Like in SEC, you're going through literally the gauntlet,
Oh
of
yeah.
football, and I chose LSU because of the tradition, the fans and things like that. But while I was there, I felt like I was so locked in and tunnel vision on being the best football player or being the best student so I can play football. Like I didn't really take hindsight to like how important, LSU was to the state of Louisiana, the fans and things of that nature. So for me, it was an eye opening experience, like, being around other 5-star guys or really humble. It was a humbling experience being around guys that you felt like, or you seen, like, no, this guy's way better than me. you know, it's hard for a player a good player to realize like, oh, there might be other people that's better than me. Especially when you come from a school where you were the best and everybody's like kind of praising you for being the best, and you go to a school where everybody was the best. Where they
Yeah.
come from. It's a humbling experience, and it's also something I felt like that made me who I was. Like it was a situation where I was an underclassman playing an upperclassman, or I was playing him for the position, like trying to
Mhm.
win the position. He was maybe a junior, senior. I was a sophomore, and they went with the upperclassman just based on experience. Like he played in SEC games, like he did things that I've never done before, and I didn't understand. I was like, dang, I won. I felt like I won the position. Like I played better than him. Like I was more, stout in the run and things of that nature. And they played him, and I was like, I wonder why they did that. But they slowly gave me the experience I needed that sophomore year when I was rotating as far as
Mhm.
being a part of rotation of D-line. And then when that next year when I was starting, it was just like, oh, I'm here now. Like, like I've been here before, I played in these kind of games before.
Yeah, your
So
your
yeah,
2011 season was crazy.
so and you think about that team had like 4 or 5 first rounders just on the
Yeah.
defense in itself, so that's crazy.
So like then again, there you go. You were one of the best players on your team, obviously, going first
Hmm.
round in 2012. Like, how does that then go where you go the complete opposite almost? Like the Rams. I mean, when you came into LSU, this team was a year removed from a national championship. The
Hmm.
season when you got to the Rams, the year before they were 2-14. So like
Hmm.
how is was what was the difference like in the locker room? Or is there any major differences there between NFL and coming in from the championship caliber program at LSU?
It was a shock to the system because for me, coming from a system like LSU, an organization like LSU, where winning was the only way, it was the only thing we knew. going to St. Louis where they come from losing, and like it was just a part of it, you know. Like I found myself to be extremely like mad at each and every game I lost for the Rams. I was like always mad. Came home always pissed off that we lost. Like wife didn't really like me after we lost. You know, it was just no. You know, you didn't really want to be around me. I had to get accustomed not to losing, but to not allowing a loss to dictate how the rest of my day or week is going to go. Because as a professional, you have to show up. You know, either you're mad, upset, frustrated, whatever. You still have to show up and do your job. So I think I grew in that aspect of like truly understanding like a loss is a loss. Take it on the chin. You did everything, you know, long as you feel like you did everything to be successful, you know, on the game, you executed the game plan and you didn't have like a whole lot of bust. Like I'm a very smart player. I think it was a stat where it was a test called like the Wonderlic for the
The Wonder League,
NFL.
yeah.
Like, yeah, I came like
Andrew
right
Luck got a
under.
48 on that out of
Yeah, I was
50.
like, I had a 46, you know,
Wow.
so like, you know, like it was something like that, like a 46, 47. Like I was right under him as far as like the Wonder League. And people are like, who is this guy? You know, this
Yeah,
young
no,
guy,
defensive
you
line,
know.
that's not usually the first position you think of to have like the geniuses on the team.
Right, you know, so I had like a 46 and I was like, yeah. So, you know, when it came to really truly understanding the game and knowing my job and knowing my position, that I took it very seriously. So as long as I knew what I was doing was what the coaches were telling me to do and we still lost, it's not ultimately my fault. It's a team game, things of that nature. But at LSU was like, no, you know, we can't lose.
Oh my God. Back to real quickly, back to your point of how important that was to say Louisiana. I was so
Hmm.
shocked when the governor came out and said the AD was going to get fired.
Right.
That was crazy. How I mean,
Hmm.
all the stories now that come out about Brian Kelly. I mean,
Hmm.
but that was just crazy how the governor stepped in and helped choose the AD. That is,
Right.
and then going to St. Louis. I mean, where this team is important, but it's not as important to necessarily the state of Missouri at the time.
Hmm.
Like going in, it's just that much. Is it necessarily like pressure coming off, or is it like I still gotta like pressure coming off to win, as you say? But how is it that you can just go from that? Okay, I gotta win to like I don't understand you saying like it takes like a lot of time. Is there any like particular like moments where you're just like, you know what, I gave it my all, but this just like wasn't. I can't do anything more.
I mean, a bunch of moments. I mean, when you're losing and you know, you feel like you should win, or you know, defensively, like when I was at the Rams, we always had a great defense, but offensively, we were, you know, up and down, inconsistent. So for me, it was always like we felt like we dominated the team defensively, but we
Mhm.
end up still losing the game. Like we can dominate, you know, the Seahawks, keep them under 20 points. They might have 10 points, but they beat us 10-6 or something. You know, so it's like
Yeah.
we lose the game, but you know, you win the battle, but you lose the war type of feel where it's like, you know, we did the best we could defensively and ultimately we still lost the game, but you can't feel like you didn't do your job or
You
you
came
didn't you
in
didn't do.
you came in Bradford's third year, right?
Yes, yes.
All
I
right.
think that was Bradford 30th. Uh-huh.
Did you ever at all like talk with the I know like how defensive like I was talking with Principal Kamara about this, how defensive guys typically stick with defensive guys. Did you as a team, did you in that especially in that 2012 season, 2013, was it would you say like everyone stuck off to their group, or was there more of like a team atmosphere that I don't know, like how was that like with the rest of the rest of the guys?
I mean, early on, it was definitely like you know, you wanted to get comfortable with your group. Um, then later on, you know, throughout my tenure with the Rams, it became more of a team aspect. Like I used to, I'm always like a straight shooter. But I like to play a lot, especially playing a kid's game. You're coming in to work, you know, you don't want to be miserable. So I used to joke around a lot. So I was always making jokes about the offensive coaches or the offensive players or something of that nature because, you know, hey, I just like to have fun, especially we got to be here all day. You know, we're here from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So sometimes, you know, to you know, kind of mix up the monotony of the day. Like I was always the one that like had a great positive like attitude and positive demeanor on the day and just like, you know, having a good time. Like, you know, we're grown men playing a
Yeah.
kids game. So ultimately I was gonna do my best job to just have fun, you know, while also putting myself through the grind as well.
That's sick. I mean, that's all. Like, that's probably stuff that got you voted captain. Like, you obviously seemed
Hmm.
like you were lighting up the locker room. What was it like?
Hmm.
Those first couple seasons. Like, what was Jeff Fisher like going in 2014 getting Aaron Donald? Like, can you talk about like those two people?
So Jeff was very cool, but Jeff was the ultimate, you know, players coach. You know, he allowed things in the building, outside the building to go on. He knew a lot about it. And he just was not hands off, but he treated us as men. We'll figure it out as men. Aaron Donald was a man's man. Early on in his career, I tell the story a lot, but I remember him being drafted and, you know, St. Louis at that time, I felt like we had a pretty solid defensive line. You know, people are talking about this guy, Aaron Donald, Aaron Donald. I'm like, who is this Aaron Donald? Like, all I watched was SEC football. Like, you know,
Yeah,
he went to Pitt. So I'm like,
yeah,
I'm not watching no Pitt football. You know, I'm probably falling asleep watching that. So I'm watching this highlight, it's like 14 minutes long. And I'm like, okay, 14 minutes. It must be a bunch of, you know, little effects in this thing, you know, a bunch of the edits to keep this thing at 14 minutes. No go. Like it's 14 minutes of just straight clips of him dominating other teams, like back after back after back. It wasn't any, I don't even think it had music. I think it was just straight clips of him dominating other offensive lines and just wrecking havoc on offenses. And I'm like, oh, I'm thankful we don't need no defensive tackle, you know, for the Rams, you know. Then all of a sudden, draft night comes up. You know, I don't know who we're drafting. I think that's the year. Did we draft him and Todd? I'm trying to think.
Todd
No, no, no,
Gurley
no,
came
no,
in
no.
2015.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think we drafted him. You know, we drafted him with the 13th or 14th pick, and I'm like, for what? Like, why? Why do we need him? He's too good to be here. You know, that's my first like sense of like, oh, I'm gonna lose my job. It's crazy. This guy that they're bringing in is phenomenal, and I can't do anything with him. So, and pretty much I went into this like mindset of like you know, you don't have to outrun the bear. You just have to outrun the next person next
Yeah,
to the
of
bear.
course.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, of course.
it's just like a survival thing. Like, okay, if I can't beat him, then I'm gonna just beat him, so I don't have to, you know, have to go against him. You know,
Yeah.
so that's kind of where I went into, and I mean, it played its part. You know, I want to be on the field. I felt like I wanted to make an impact on the team. So, you know, if I had to switch my position or I didn't want to do it at first because he came in, you know, I was playing on one side of the ball and he was playing, you know, all over depending on because he just liked to play the three technique,
Mhm.
you know, and I was just like, no, you gotta play some nose too. If I gotta play nose and three technique, you gotta play some nose and three technique. And the coach came to me one time. I think they put him at nose tackle one time, and he got drove off the ball because he's just a little.
Yeah, he is.
He was little in stature at that point. And you know, coach was like, "Man, um, I think we're just gonna move to a situation where Aaron always plays the three, and you always plays the nose. You always play the nose." I'm like, really? Like, I did not want to do that at all. But he made a play versus Adrian Peterson one time, just tackling Adrian Peterson, slinging him to the ground, and nobody had done that to AP before that. And I was like, uh-oh, this dude is real. Then he went out and slammed beast mode one time, and I was like, you know what? You got it, bro.
Let the
I'm
man
gonna do
cook.
whatever I can. Let him cook. I'll be over on my side cooking. You do your thing over there. I see why they drafted you. You're a phenomenal player. Let's go. So it took me a little while to get over like the reality of like this dude is really good and he's really different. He's not. This probably like the best player that you played with. So like let's just maneuver around this thing. Find your area, find your space where you're needed, and just stick to that and just execute that. So going in with him being drafted, that's kind of what I had to shift my mindset to because he was such a phenomenal player. I had to find my own lane, with him. Like obviously we're a team, but for me, I'm like, okay, where do I fit in this scheme? Where do I fit on this defense?
Did you have to put on like extra weight to go then play nose?
I was already big. Yeah, I was like 315, 320 at that point in my career. So I was already a bigger guy than him already. So they were just like, yeah, you
Yeah.
just move the nose. You're comfortable. Just play opposite hand down. You'll
Yeah.
figure it out. And I was like, yeah, I figured it out.
I mean, I first like if I completely understand exactly. Like if someone came in and was like, "Oh my god, they just drafted me 2 years ago. Now they've drafted this guy." Like at first, I would
Hmm.
think I'd be like, "What is going?
Yeah,
Why are they
right?
drafting him?" And then, but I mean, luckily for the D line, there's 3 or 4 spots. Like they got
Hmm.
you guys are able to figure it out. I mean, you played together with him for 6, 7 years. Like
Hmm.
it ended up working out somehow.
Right.
Um, but like then going in like 2015, you get Todd Gurley.
Hmm.
2016, you guys move to LA. You get Sean McVay's coach. Like, how was that? Like, and you get Jared Goff. How was that?
Hmm.
Like, did you see like the process being built, like the foundations of this team?
Man, so 2016 was crazy because I didn't think you could move a team that fast. Like we literally found out we were moving when everybody else found out. It was very
Really?
secretive. Like there are rumors, but it wasn't like actual moving. It was like they could potentially move to LA. Me being a player, not really seeing a franchise move ever. I was like, well, it'll take a couple of years. There's a bunch of things they got to sign off on and this and that. And all of a sudden, we're in the off season. I had my first baby. Well, not me. My wife had our first child, and I get a alert on ESPN like the Rams are moving to Los Angeles, and I'm like, what?
Like, how
Yeah, this
quickly
is
did you have to
fake.
go like find a house and stuff? Like, I was thinking,
So that process probably happened over like a 3 to 4 month period. We had
okay,
to move out of the house in St. Louis, get everything packed up, get everything on a 18 wheeler to go into LA. Then we get to LA for training or off season OTAs, and then we're like all over the place. We're in Oxnard first, then we moved up to Thousand Oaks, and then it was a lot of moving
yeah,
pieces. It it was for a team to move like that. The way they did it was somewhat chaos, but at the same time structured chaos. Like they knew what they wanted, but it was just like a bunch of moving hotels here, moving this hotel, and they kept us updated as far as when we were in St. Louis. But we had no clue we were moving to LA. I mean to LA before that announcement came out. Like nobody knew, and then all of a sudden we got hit with that. So that was like strenuous period, but getting Todd Gurley, like I think, watching some of his highlights, I took him running the way he did and just watching him, score points for us, took that for granted. Because I watched some highlights the other day of Todd Gurley, and I was like, bro, I actually play with this dude. Like, I
yeah.
actually was on the same team as him. This dude was a freak. So, yeah, I enjoyed it. Sean McVay coming, to the team was a phenomenal experience because before that, we never really had a consistent offense that scored points. So, I remember the first game we were playing and he was coaching, and they went on like a 13 play drive. I was like, dang, I'm like, hold over here. Like,
You get
usually,
a little
they
break
go
now.
3-0. So, it was definitely like a whole mental shift with McVay where you knew, like, okay, they were going to score points, so we just got to do our thing, and everything's going to happen. We're going to win the game.
And is he like? What is he like in person? Like, because he seems like, at least on the sidelines and from interviews, like he just seems like this guy that's just like full of life. Like he just seems like
Mm-hmm.
he knows everything about everything, and he just
Mm-hmm.
seems like he just all he wants to do is just talk and like talk about that stuff. Like I don't know. Can you tell me?
Yeah, I mean, he's. I mean, I'm glad that what he seems like off the field is who he is because he is somebody that knows a lot about the game. He's very, like intuitive as far as like knowing precisely like how he wants things done. Like it can be a split versus 1 or 2 yards, and he's like, "No, I need you. I need you at this right mark. If you're not right at the right mark, it's not gonna affect the defense like I needed to affect, and you like, what? But then you see it happen and you see why you're doing what you're doing. You're like, okay, coach, okay, I understand what you're saying. So, him, allowing really putting accountability on the players, like him being accountable to us being accountable to him, and just making a team aspect without really coming in and being egotistical about, the game of football and where he was and his stature as far as being the head coach. I love the way he goes about it because he's very positive, but he's very he's gonna hold you accountable.
Yeah, he's assertive.
Yeah, he's assertive. He knows what he wants. He knows what it should look like, and if it doesn't look that way, it's a problem. But it's not like it's a problem because it bothers him. It's a problem because we want as a team be successful with
Yeah,
that type of practice or with that type of effort, or whatever. So it makes you feel like, okay, I need to do whatever he says and how he says it, and how it needs to be done to win the game. Because usually, if I do whatever he says and do it the way he says it to be done, we usually win the game. So,
yeah.
yeah, for the most part, let's buy in and do what this man said.
I mean, and then obviously what he did worked. I mean, you
Hmm.
guys, 2018 was the best.
Hmm.
I mean, he was the greatest offense. I remember watching, and like I remember that game against KC, the Monday
Hmm.
night, just going back and
Hmm.
forth, and it was like there was over 100 total points scored. And I'm like, oh my god! And
Hmm.
it's just crazy to see like also the stars on that team. Like you all had Whitworth, you guys had Jared Goff at the time,
Hmm.
Gurley, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks, Donald, Ramsey,
Yeah.
you like it was a star-studded team. Like, did you guys know coming into that year, like we got something?
I mean, that year, obviously, this was like our second or third tenure with McVay. And I think the year before that was 2017. We ended up losing to Atlanta in the playoffs, and
Yeah,
I
wild
think
card, right?
wild card. Yeah, we
Yeah,
ended up losing to Atlanta in the wild card. I think us feeling that experience of just playing in the playoffs, because a lot of people don't realize this. Like there are players and great players in our league that never played in a playoff game.
yeah,
So to have the opportunity to play in a playoff game was something a lot of the guys on that team at that point had never done. So feeling that energy of a playoff game, just a wild card game. I felt like the lights were brighter, like it was something in the air as far as the buzz in the stadium. Like I don't know. I think we were addicted to that feeling. So that
yeah.
next year we were like, nah, we're winning. We're going. We know how it feels to lose in the playoffs. Let's do whatever we got to do to make sure we come out of this and we're winning. We're going to the Super Bowl next year. So that's kind of what was on my mind the whole time. And I think everybody bought into that thought process of like, yes, we understand we got a regular season, but we're going to the Super Bowl. So everybody, do what you got to do but we're going to the Super Bowl. We had that much confidence in, where we were as a team and who we had leading us.
So then, can you talk about like what that game was like? I mean, it's a very, very defensive focused game. Both
Mm-hmm.
defenses put on a show. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
going against the GOAT, stopping him for 3.5 quarters. Like,
Mm-hmm.
can you walk us through like the preparation of the game, stuff like that? Like, how did you guys prepare for it? What was it like actually playing and stuff like that?
Preparing for the Patriots was very, it wasn't difficult. It was just you had to know what set they were in. You
Mm,
had to know who was in the game. You had to know like they run certain plays based off of who was in the game and where they were in the game. So it was it was easy to a sense of like knowing, okay, when they're 21, they're running this, or when they bring a fullback in, they're running this. Like you knew what to expect, but the man at the helm, Tom Brady, he just was going to take what you gave him, and we tried to make it as tough as we could in that game, and he came out and just made a phenomenal throw, and they made some plays. So, but just playing in the game, that was like my first time cramping up in the game because I always heard
really?
like, oh man, the halftime show was a long halftime show. It's this, it's that. You need, you're gonna be in here a while. And I didn't understand what they were saying, but literally, you know, for a regular season game, you're the TV, not TV time about the halftime show, maybe like 10, 15 minutes, and
Yeah,
then you're coming right back out. This is like 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes, depending on TV timeouts. And I mean, the amount of time they need for the person, whoever's performing, um, to do their bit and do their thing on the stage. So we were in that 30 minutes, and a lot of guys got dropped. Like we're taking off the
yeah.
pads, like this was the end of the game. So second half, I was looking up and like my hand kept cramping up and things like that, and I was like, man, this is my first time getting a cramp in a game. This is crazy. So yeah, but it was a great experience. I think, that's one thing that I always remember is just playing in the Super Bowl because a lot of guys don't even get an opportunity to say that they did that. So I cherish like that year based on just the camaraderie of the team, but also being able to play in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, your boys did it a couple years back, so
Mhm.
they came back,
I
did
won
that.
that hard. I feel like I
Yeah,
won
yeah,
that
yeah,
hard.
yeah. They should have given you a ring.
Uh,
So then going into 2019, 2020, career starting to wind down, going to
mhm,
COVID, you re-signed with the Rams. Did you at like some
mhm.
point like figure like, okay, I'm starting to reach the end? Or is there something like what happened, what made you decide like I'm probably closer to retirement?
You see, you get because the stuff happens so fast. Bro. You go from rookie to 7 years in, and it felt like it happened like a snap of a finger. Then all of a sudden, I was 9 years in. I'm like, oh
Wow.
my gosh, 9 years? This is crazy. So, 9 years in, you're just not trying to keep up, but it's mentally you're staying ahead of the game just because
Mm,
it's meant you're mentally prepared. You're mentally locking in. It's nothing else you can do physically. You can lift as much weights as you want to. You can run as much as you want to. It's not gonna help you. You're gonna somewhat decline, as you get
yeah.
older. I think mentally it was important for me to take advantage of like, knowing who my opponent was, like even knowing the backups, like taking all my experiences from early in my career to really use them later in my career, to have everything more top than I could physically. Like I could still hang physically, but I think mentally preparing, knowing the sets, knowing where they were on the field, knowing, the down and distance, knowing, the person, like I said, the personnel on the field, it helped me a lot to kind of stay a couple of steps ahead of like what I was going to get, preparing me for what I was going to get, things like that. So, I think mentally I was a lot more structured towards the end of my career.
Yeah, well, I think, I mean, obviously you just have that much more experience over these young guys, but then
Hmm.
again, physically, like, was there any moment where you're just like, all right, I can't hang with this guy anymore? Was there anything like
Hmm.
that where you're just like, I don't know how they're doing it?
Yeah. No, yeah, like my last year, I was in Detroit playing against Panay Sewell, and just practicing against him, and just seeing how quick he was, how ferocious he was. He put a move on me one time in a zone scheme, and I was just like, yeah, I might be at the end. I just might be at the end of my career because he made me look like a complete fool, out there, and he didn't do nothing but like knock my hands down or something like that. Something real simple. But I was like, man, this cat, he really making me look bad, and I don't want to go against him. And I remember talking to a vet while I was playing, and I would ask him the same thing. I asked him like, "How did you know you were done? Like, what does that look like?" He was like, "Man, when you line up against a guy and you don't want to be there, it ain't got nothing to do with you being scared or anything like that. But it's just more about you just don't want to go against this guy. Like, you're just like over it type deal. That's
Yeah.
when like you're about done. In the league when you're done like reproving yourself and you're done really like being out there, that's when it's over for you. So I kind of had that feeling towards the end of my career, and I'm like, you know what? I think it's about time for me to hang the cleats up because I'm very highly critical of myself. So I watch film. I look at the film very intently. So when I'm watching things on film that I know I probably should be doing better, I'm like, a couple of years ago, I probably would have made that play. Now I'm not making that play. So am I getting old? You start questioning, your ability.
Yeah. So I'm assuming then there's not going to be any Philip Rivers type of comeback going on.
Not for me, man. Not for me, man. It's, quarterback because, they don't, you can't land on them. You can't hit them too high. You can't
Yeah.
hit them too low. It's like they protect them throughout this game. So on one end, it's like, you're protected at quarterback. All you have to do is pretty much get the ball out your hands, make sure you hit the right read. Don't, turn the ball over and you'll be able to you know, um, play as a quarterback, as a defensive tackle, physically in them trenches, going against a guy. It's a lot of wear and tear on your body.
Oh yeah. So just transitioning to like state of the NFL now, like sum it up. Like, what do you how do you think about like today's game? I mean, it's not it's not that far different from like off from when you played, but
Hmm.
what are you like thinking about like how teams are looking this year?
I think a lot of teams are obviously they have tons of athletes. Everybody has tons of athletes. They're trying to get the ball, so it's a lot of like what we call basketball on grass, where you get the ball in your playmaker's hands and allow him to make plays. When I was playing, it wasn't a lot of lateral. Towards the back end of my career, maybe they start to throw screens and things like
Yeah.
that a little bit more. But now it's heavy screens, heavy and a lot of that is D tackle. You're not really in play, but it forces you to run to the ball. It forces you to run, here, run there. So um, I think the game has changed a little bit in that sense of like being more lateral in the game, making the field a lot more wide and not making it more compact when I played. There's more
Yeah.
downhill runs, things of that nature.
So you have any team like that you're looking at like, ooh, they got it this year?
So I cover the Rams. That's what I was doing before this show. I was doing my Rams podcast. So obviously I cover the Rams. I just left Detroit like not too long ago, so I've been watching those teams this year. Um, man, I mean, I'm biasly a Rams fan. Biasly because I play for the Rams, but I really like the Rams too. Um, so I think for the most part, they have the most complete team
Yeah.
as far as having a young group of guys stars, in the front seven that have all, trying to prove something. The secondary is very young, 1 to 2 to 3 years at most in the secondary. Offensively, you got, one of the greats at quarterback. You got a great wide receiver in Puka Nakua, and you also have, one of the greats, throughout his career in Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
Have a solid D line, two solid running backs at this point of the year, not, really banged up. I'll knock on some wood on that. Not really
Hopefully.
banged
Yeah.
up. So it's like, I feel like they're one of the most complete teams in the league at this point right now, and they're still like clicking. Like I know they lost a couple weeks ago, but they're still clicking as a team. They're still staying consistent as a team. So right now, I think the Rams they're like one of the hardest teams to beat right now.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you there. I mean, they got a big game coming up against the Seahawks. Like, I'm curious to
They're
see
going against
more.
the Lions this week too. So they go
Yeah,
against the Lions and the
and
Seahawks
then
next week. So
Seahawks on next Thursday or so. Yeah, next.
something
Is it?
like that.
Yeah. Like they got a couple big games on their schedule, but what I love about the Rams, like you said, they're just one of the most complete teams, one of the youngest teams. Like their D line is just so incredibly young. Like Jared Verse, he's only like 23, 24. They've got just so much opportunity for growth that it's scary
Hmm.
to think about how this isn't even their like ceiling yet. So yeah, just transitioning like final things. Like, how do you cover the Rams right now with their podcast? What is there any like other things you're looking to build towards? Is there anything more like football related that you hope like want to try and do? Like, what's the goal for you?
Um, I just want to stay busy for the most part,
Mm,
as far as just, keeping my mind active. I don't want to get complacent and lay around the house and play the game all day. So, I have my businesses. Right now I'm going into a spectrum of like consulting and coaching. Just
huh,
really giving my knowledge. Like, do I have, every drill that you should do to be successful? No. But do I think I have the knowledge to give like the youth and give back to the younger generation to help them move forward? Yes. So at this moment, just doing a lot of things, doing my business ventures while also, keeping that knowledge of the game, knowledge of just D line play in general, keeping that up and just watching a lot of other younger coaches who are uh, doing their thing as far as D-line coaching is concerned. So I'm just staying apt to what's working, what's not working, what are the guys doing nowadays that may be different than what I grew up on,
mhm.
and kind of merge the two to be a little bit more successful. So because I have 4 kids, little
Yeah,
kids right now, which will be big kids later in the future. And I just know like they're gonna get tired of me, and I'm gonna need something to do. So coaching might be in my uh, let's say
your
further
future.
future.
Yeah. I mean, you can ask my dad; he'll tell you. Kids only they only get more busy. Like it
Right.
becomes harder and harder. All right. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. I really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you, man. Keep this thing going. Just get the content out there, bro. I think that's the biggest thing out there. It's just getting it out there, getting the content out there, and just saying, screw it, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.